Hello everyone and welcome to Yorkshire Gamer and one of the regular troops on parade features here, which is just honestly an excuse for me to get a collection of figures out on the table that maybe hasn't seen the light of day for a while, and just do a full review of what I've got in a particular area. So what you're looking at now is the World War One Turkish army, 28mm obviously, and this gets regularly used. If you don't know, we do a World War One Mesopotamia game each year at Christmas, and this collection was also at Steel Lard last November. And we'll go down and we'll have a look at some of the units in a minute, but I thought I'd start with a shot showing the general size of the army. And if you missed it, there's a World War One British Empire army review, the army that fights this on a regular basis. So I'll put a link in the notes for this if you haven't seen that particular troops in parade. So here they are in all their glory. We've got two regiments of cavalry closest to the camera. We'll have a close look at those in a minute. We've got 4 batteries of artillery. And then we've got 8 battalions of infantry, each with a machine gun section, and then some high command figures as well. So I'll move the camera down and we'll have a look at some of these units in close detail. So we've moved the camera down now to have a look at a little bit more detail at some of the units that we've got here. And I'm going to start at the front with the artillery. And there's 4 bases of artillery here. All of them have the 75mm Krupp gun in slightly different formats. The first one's here. We'll look at this guy first. This is from Gripping Beast. And they do a lovely range. The Woodbine design company, part of Gripping Beast, do a lovely range of World War One Turkish figures, and this is from that range. A couple of batteries of those, and then the other 2 batteries are from a company called Tiger Miniatures, which are featured on the monthly updates in recent months. They're a lot cheaper than the Woodbine design, not quite as much detail on them, but they paint up quite nicely and they work quite well for us. So there we go, there's the artillery. Next up is the cavalry. There are 2 units of cavalry, and finding World War One Turkish cavalry is not easy, trust me. And we've not had to improvise, but we've had to search quite extensively throughout the internet and find ranges and manufacturers that I was completely unaware of prior to starting this particular project. So the first unit we've got that we're looking at the moment are from the East Ablaze range, which is a small specialist 28mm range that Minifigs do. It's got some lovely figures in there, some of the World War One Highlanders that you've probably seen before come from that range. And it's not very extensive, and like this particular range here, there's only 3 figures. There's a lancer, there's a trumpeter and an officer, and that's it. There's no variation within the figures themselves, and so it makes for a very staid unit, sort of how units would look when I first started gaming, but the devil's driving, so we have to choose what we can get. Lovely figures, they come out quite nice. They're a lot smaller than most of the other stuff that I've got, and I've made the lances too big, but I can't be bothered to cut them down. So there we go. So that's Turkish lancers. I'll shaky cam across to the next cavalry unit, and that's these guys here. I'll just move the lighting as well to give them a better effect. And these are Turkish cavalry from Tiger Miniatures. Again, relatively recently I painted these in the last 6 months, and I've had these hanging around for a while. They are from a range that covers the Balkans War, which was 1912, 1914, so just prior to the start of World War One. So Again, a little bit of improvisation here. Nobody does World War One Cavalry, Mesopotamia, Turkish. Yeah, they're bigger than the minifigs quite considerably. If we just move the camera again and get that shot showing the two types, there is quite a big difference there, but it's all the cavalry that's available, so that's what we've gone for. So that's the cavalry. We'll have a look at the infantry in a moment. Here's a general shot looking down the lines of infantry. All the infantry here are from Woodbine design, the Gripping Beast offshoot that we spoke about a moment ago, and they're all based individually on 2 pence pieces, which is just how our rules work, and I like that flexibility. In this period, I normally prefer larger bases with lots of figures on to ease movement, but in this particular period it's useful for removing casualties and also for showing the extended formations that would be used in combat. So that's the overlook of the 8 battalions that we've got. So let's have a bit of a dive into one of those. Each of the battalions has a machine gun base that's attached to it, and this is just a quick look at one of those here. Lovely models from Gripping Beast. Nice machine gun setup. 3 figures on a base there. I think they're on 60 by 60s looking at that. I'm not sure. It's a long time ago since I painted these, and these guys have seen a lot of action over the years, and they're in remarkably good condition considering the amount that they've been played with. Now that's one of the machine gun bases, and then the infantry themselves. If we look at those infantry, then each battalion has a headquarters section of 2 figures, which we can just see at the front of the camera now, and then behind them there are a row of 4 companies of 8 figures. And these are the Turkish regular battalions, and they're a mix of headgear, but mostly in the Enver Pasha helmet. And each one of those, if we just use shaky cam for a sec, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the main units and main battalions, and then we'll just come down here, and in front of those, just light those up a little bit more so you can see them in detail, we have the Turkish High Command. 5 figures there, and they're just used for the army commanders when we play our larger games. We use a set of rules called If the Lord Spares Us by Two Fat Lardies. And if you go back to podcast 7 of the Yorkshire Gamer podcast, I speak to Nick Skinner, the main guy behind those rules from Two Fat Lardies, about the rules and also about our relatives who fought in that particular theatre of operations in World War One. Really good episode, so you can always bob back and have a listen to that. If you want some more inspiration for World War One Mesopotamia in particular. So, as well as the 4 regular Turkish battalions, we've got 4 more Turkish battalions, and we'll start off with these. Now, these are described in the Woodbine design catalogue as Arabs in Turkish service, and again, we've got the machine gun bases. I'll just move out so we get a little bit of better focus on. And 1 per battalion of that. 2 figures HQ, as we've had before. And then we move the camera forward again to focus on the battalion behind. And instead of 8 figures, these I've got 6 figures. And that's just per company, 4 companies per battalion. So we've got 26 figures in a battalion for these and 34 figures for the regular Turkish battalions. Just reflecting the from the information I have, or when I did this army 10 years ago, or whenever it was I made this army up, was that the Arab battalions were usually slightly less strength, and that's what I've done to reflect that. I've got 6-figure companies rather than 8-figure companies. So 3 battalions of those. We've got the one there, one at the back, and another one over there. And then the final battalion is this one here. And these are representative of Turkish Stormtroopers. Now, obviously you'll be familiar, or I think you would be familiar with the WW1 Turkish Stormtroopers, sorry, the WW1 German Stormtroopers, but maybe not the Turkish Stormtroopers. It's something that came in I believe, 1917 when they were brought in, modelled on their allies of the time, Germany, and those tactics, and were effectively a copy of that. Most of our games at the moment were still in early 1916, so this battalion wasn't formed, but it's used. We use this to represent an elite Turkish battalion if we need that for a particular scenario, and it just helps us when we're looking on tabletop to distinguish that between what that and one of the other regular Turkish battalions. So there we go. There's a rundown in a little bit more detail of some of the main units. So I hope you've enjoyed that. A little bit shaky cam at the end here, but I just wanted to finish off with a look round the army as I steadily move across, trying not to make people motion sick. This army, I'm not particularly looking at the moment to add anything to it. It's everything that we've required so far for all the games that we've played, and we are currently on the relief of the Siege of Kut, and there's probably 5 or 6 battles in that one, so we're going to be well into the 2020s before that's done. And if I need to paint any more, I'll just buy some from Woodbine Design. But I think this is probably the finished army, which is a rare thing to say, I know, but there we go. So I hope you've enjoyed that little run through the World War I Turkish army. As I say, pop back and see the British army in a previous Troops on Parade. Otherwise, these should be out fairly shortly. We didn't get time to do our Christmas game at Christmas, so I'm hoping to get that done in the next few months. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see you.